I stood in front of 150 people at my wife's baby shower, holding a microphone in one hand and a USB drive in the other, about to destroy 2 lives. But 6 months ago, I thought I was the happiest man alive. If you've got some time, maybe grab a drink and settle in, because this story, it's a lot. And I need to tell it from the beginning, because the ending only makes sense if you understand just how far I fell before I learned to fight back. So, here's what you need to know. I spent 4 years watching my wife cry over negative pregnancy tests. We spent $60,000 on IVF treatments that never worked. Then one day, she told me she was finally pregnant, naturally, miraculously. I was overjoyed, until a routine genetic screening proved the baby couldn't possibly be mine. The real father, my cousin Brandon, the guy I'd supported financially for years, the guy I'd treated like a brother, they'd planned the whole thing. The affair, the paternity fraud, the lie they were going to let me live for the rest of my life. So, I did what they never expected. I gathered evidence, I planned carefully, and I exposed them both in the most public, devastating way I could imagine. This is the story of how the baby that was supposed to complete my family destroyed everything, and how I took back my life from the people who thought I was too weak to fight back. My name is Michael, I'm 36, I'm an architect, and I live in Portland, Oregon. Well, I live here now alone, but for 8 years I shared this life with my wife Jennifer. Before I tell you about how it all fell apart, I need you to understand how it started, because the beginning is the only reason the ending hurts so much. I lost both my parents in a car accident when I was 22, right in the middle of my junior year at Oregon State. One minute, I was a college kid worried about design critiques and beer pong tournaments, and the next, I was an orphan planning a funeral I couldn't afford. My mom's sister Linda and her husband Rick, they stepped in. They had a son, Brandon, who was 15 at the time, still in high school. They took me into their home that summer, helped me figure out how to finish school, how to access my parents' small life insurance policy, how to keep moving forward when I felt like I was drowning. Brandon looked up to me back then. He'd knock on my door at night, ask me about college, about architecture, about life. I became the older brother he never had. And he became the little brother I never had. That bond, it meant everything to me. It was the only family I had left. I met Jennifer 4 years later at a hospital charity event in 2015. I was there volunteering my time to design a community center, and she was there in her scrubs, an ER nurse with this bright, confident energy that just pulled me in. We started dating, and for the first time since my parents died, I felt like I was building something again. Not just buildings, but a life, a family. We got married in 2017, small ceremony, just close friends and family. Brandon was my best man. He gave this toast about how I'd always been there for him, how he hoped to be the kind of man I was someday. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what home feels like. The first 3 years of our marriage were good, really good. We bought a house in Northeast Portland, one of those cute craftsman bungalows that needed work but had good bones. Jennifer worked long shifts at the hospital, I worked long hours at the firm, but we made it work. We'd have Sunday dinners with Linda and Rick and Brandon. We'd take weekend trips to the coast. We'd talk about the future, and the future always included kids. Jennifer wanted kids from day one. I did too. After losing my parents, after feeling like my family had been ripped away, I wanted to build it back. I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to give a kid all the love and stability I'd lost. By year 4, 2020, we started trying. At first it was exciting, spontaneous, hopeful, but month after month, the pregnancy tests came back negative. Jennifer started getting frustrated, then worried, then desperate. We went to a fertility specialist in early 2021. They ran tests on both of us. My sperm count came back slightly low, but the doctor said it was still within normal range, shouldn't be a problem. Jennifer's tests came back fine. The doctor said sometimes it just takes time, but if we wanted to speed things up, we could try IVF. We tried IVF, first round, summer 2021, $18,000, weeks of hormone injections that made Jennifer exhausted and emotional, endless appointments. And then we waited. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Not viable. The embryo didn't take. Jennifer cried for hours that night. I held her and told her we'd try again, that we had time, that it would work. Second round, early 2022. $22,000 this time because we opted for additional genetic screening. The pandemic was still lingering. Everything felt unstable and scary, but we told ourselves that a baby would give us something to hope for. This time we made it further. The embryo implanted. Jennifer's hormone levels looked good for about a week. Then they started dropping. Miscarriage. Jennifer took it harder than the first time. She stopped wanting to talk about it. She'd come home from her shifts and just go straight to bed. I tried to be supportive, tried to give her space, tried to do everything right, but I felt like I was failing her, like my body was failing her. We gave ourselves a few months to recover, financially and emotionally, but by late 2022, Jennifer wanted to try one more time. Third round, early 2023, $20,000. By this point, we'd drained most of our savings. I was working overtime, taking on extra projects, trying to cover the costs. This round was the most invasive. More tests, more medications, higher doses. Jennifer's body was exhausted. I could see it, but she was determined. She said this was our last chance, that if this didn't work, maybe we'd just accept that kids weren't in the cards for us. It didn't work. The call came in March 2023. I was at work when Jennifer called me, and I knew from her voice before she even said anything. This time, she didn't cry. She just sounded hollow. "It's over," she said. "I'm done. I can't do this anymore." We'd spent $60,000 over 2.5 years, and we had nothing to show for it except debt and heartbreak. I should have seen the cracks forming, but I didn't. Or maybe I did, and I just told myself they were normal, that we were going through something hard and it was okay if we weren't perfect. Jennifer started going out more. She said she needed space, needed to reconnect with herself outside of being the woman who can't have kids. I understood that. I encouraged it. She started going to the gym more, hanging out with coworkers, having girls' nights. I worked late to make extra money. We drifted, but I told myself it was temporary, that once we recovered from the IVF nightmare, we'd find our way back to each other. Here's where Brandon comes back into the story. He'd been living in Seattle for a few years, working as a personal trainer, doing okay for himself. But in early 2021, he went through a bad breakup and kind of fell apart. He called me one night, drunk, saying he couldn't afford his rent, that he was thinking about moving back to Portland. Linda and Rick's house was full. They'd converted Brandon's old room into an office, so I offered our spare bedroom. Just for a few weeks, I said, just until he got back on his feet. Brandon moved in April 2021. The few weeks turned into 8 months. He was charming, funny, easy to have around. He'd cook dinner sometimes, make Jennifer laugh, help with projects around the house. I didn't mind. He was family. And honestly, it was nice to have someone else in the house while Jennifer and I were going through the IVF stress. Brandon became this buffer, this source of lightness when everything else felt heavy. But I started noticing things, little things. Jennifer and Brandon would be laughing in the kitchen, and when I walked in, the conversation would shift. They started going to the gym together. Brandon was helping her with a training plan, he said. Sometimes I'd come home, and they'd both be there, sitting close on the couch watching TV, and they'd both jump a little when I walked in, like I'd interrupted something. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was projecting my insecurities. Jennifer was my wife, Brandon was my cousin, my brother. They were just getting along. That was good, right? That meant my family was working. I helped Brandon get his personal training certification that fall. Paid for the course, $1,200, helped him study. He passed in November 2021. Then I lent him $15,000 to start his own training business, get equipment, rent studio space, build a client base. He was grateful. He said he'd pay me back as soon as the business took off. He signed a promissory note. I trusted him. By December 2021, Brandon moved out into his own apartment across town. I was relieved, not because I didn't love him, but because I felt like Jennifer and I needed space to be a couple again, to work through our grief about the IVF failures in private. But the distance didn't help. If anything, Jennifer seemed more distant after Brandon left. She was on her phone constantly. She started working later shifts. She was always tired. When we did the third IVF round in early 2023 and it failed, I thought that was our rock bottom. I thought the only way from there was up. We'd grieve, we'd heal, we'd maybe start talking about adoption or fostering or just accepting a child-free life. I thought we were going to be okay. I was so wrong. Summer 2023, June, July, August. Jennifer's mood shifted. She seemed lighter, happier. She was going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. She told me Brandon was helping her train, that working out was helping her process the grief, that she was finally feeling like herself again. I was happy for her. I thought, good, she's healing. We're going to make it through this. I should have seen it then, but I didn't. If you've ever ignored a red flag because looking at it too closely would mean admitting something you're not ready to admit, you know exactly what I mean. I chose to believe the best in people I loved because the alternative was too painful to consider. August turned into September. One evening, early September, Jennifer came home from the gym glowing. She walked into the living room where I was reviewing blueprints for a client project, and she had this look on her face, nervous, excited, scared, hopeful, all at once. "Michael," she said, "I need to tell you something." I looked up. My first thought was that she was leaving me, that she'd finally decided she couldn't stay in a marriage that reminded her of everything we'd failed at. "I'm pregnant." The words didn't register at first. I just stared at her. "I'm pregnant," she said again, and now she was crying, happy tears streaming down her face. "I took 3 tests. I went to the doctor this morning. They confirmed it. I'm 6 weeks pregnant, Michael. I don't know how, but I'm pregnant." I stood up so fast I knocked over my coffee. I didn't even care. I crossed the room and I held her and I cried into her shoulder. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we were going to get the family we dreamed of. After everything, after the money, the pain, the grief, the distance, it had happened naturally, a miracle, she called it. And I believed her. I had no idea that was the last normal day of my life. The next few weeks were a blur of joy. I called Linda and Rick. They cried. I called Brandon. He sounded weird on the phone, quiet, awkward. But I figured he was just surprised. We started making plans. I bought pregnancy books, started researching nurseries, picked out paint colors for the spare bedroom. Jennifer seemed happy, but also stressed, which I figured was normal. First trimester, hormones, all of that. October came. We had our first ultrasound at 8 weeks. Seeing the heartbeat on that screen, I can't even describe it. Jennifer squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. The technician smiled and printed out pictures. We left that appointment, and I felt like I was walking on air. But Jennifer was quiet in the car ride home. When I asked if she was okay, she said she was just overwhelmed, that it felt surreal after trying for so long. I didn't push. I just held her hand and told her everything was going to be okay. Late October, we had another appointment. Routine genetic screening at 12 weeks. It was supposed to be simple. Blood test, check for chromosomal abnormalities, make sure everything was developing normally. We sat in the exam room, and the doctor, Dr. Patel, came in with our results. "Everything looks great," she said, smiling. "Baby's developing perfectly. No markers for any genetic issues." Jennifer exhaled. I felt my shoulders relax. Dr. Patel scanned the paperwork. "Oh, interesting. Baby's blood type is showing as AB negative. That's pretty rare. Only about 1% of the population." "Is that a problem?" I asked. No, not at all. Just notable." She flipped through our chart. For baby to have AB negative, one parent would need to pass an A or B allele, and both parents need to pass an Rh negative factor. "Let me just check your blood types to confirm the genetics lineup." She looked at the chart, then she looked again. Her smile faded. "Michael, your blood type is O positive, correct? From your record here." "Yeah," I said. "Donated blood in college. They told me O positive. And Jennifer, you're A positive." "Right," Jennifer said, her voice tight. Dr. Patel set down the chart. She looked between us, and something in her expression made my stomach drop. "I need to explain something," she said carefully. "Blood type inheritance follows strict genetic rules. If Michael is O positive and Jennifer is A positive, your baby cannot be AB negative. It's genetically impossible. For the baby to have AB negative, the father would need to have a B allele and an Rh negative factor. Michael, you have neither of those?" The room went silent. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I could hear Jennifer breathing next to me, short and shallow. "What are you saying?" My voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else. "I'm saying there may be an error in our records, or..." Dr. Patel hesitated. This requires further investigation. But in 20 years of practice, I've never seen blood type genetics be incorrect. That's insane, Jennifer said, standing up. There has to be a mistake. Labs mess up all the time. Jennifer, Dr. Patel said gently, I understand this is shocking, but no. Jennifer grabbed her purse. I want a second opinion. This is ridiculous. Michael, let's go. I sat there, frozen. My brain was trying to process what Dr. Patel had just said, but it felt like I was underwater, like I couldn't quite grasp it. Michael, Jennifer said again, sharper this time. Let's go. I stood up. I followed her out of the office. We didn't speak in the elevator. We didn't speak in the parking garage. I got into the driver's seat, and Jennifer got into the passenger seat, and I just sat there with my hands on the wheel. It's a mistake, Jennifer said. Her voice was shaking. It has to be a mistake. Jennifer, I said quietly, look at me. She wouldn't. Jennifer, look at me. She turned, and her eyes were red, and in that moment, I knew. I knew. Is the baby mine? I asked. Of course it's yours. Don't be ridiculous. Then how do you explain the blood type? I don't know. Lab error. Maybe you are not O positive. Maybe. I donated blood in college. I donated again 2 years ago. I'm O positive. I know I am. My hands were shaking. So if the baby is AB negative and I can't give the baby a B allele and I can't give the baby an Rh negative factor, who did? Jennifer started crying. Michael, please, don't do this. Not now. Who did, Jennifer? She didn't answer. She opened the car door and got out and started walking. I watched her cross the parking garage, and I sat there alone, and I felt my entire world collapsing in on itself. I drove home separately. She texted me that she was getting a ride from a friend, that she needed space. I got home to our empty house, walked upstairs to the spare bedroom, the room I'd started painting pale yellow for the nursery, and I stood there staring at the half-finished walls. After 4 years of trying, after $60,000, after all the grief and the heartbreak and the hope, she was finally pregnant. Just not with my baby. I needed to be sure. Maybe Dr. Patel was wrong. Maybe there was some weird genetic anomaly. Maybe I was losing my mind. I went downstairs and opened my laptop. I looked up blood type genetics, read article after article. The science was clear, undeniable. O plus A cannot produce AB. It's not a maybe, it's not a sometimes. It's biological law. I called the lab. Confirm my blood type on file. O positive. On record since 2009. Then I did what I should have done months ago. I logged into our phone account online, pulled up Jennifer's call and text logs. There was one number she texted constantly. Hundreds of messages over the past 6 months, concentrated between June and August. I stared at the number. It felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. I called it from my work phone. It rang twice. Brandon Klein's training studio, this is Brandon. I hung up. I sat there, staring at the wall, and everything clicked into place. The late nights at the gym, the way they'd laugh together when I came home, the way the conversations would stop when I walked in, the way Brandon got weird when I told him Jennifer was pregnant. June, July, August. That's when Jennifer got pregnant. That's when she was going to the gym 4-5 times a week. That's when Brandon was helping her train. I opened our credit card statements, scrolled back through June, July, August. There they were. Heathman Hotel, downtown Portland. July 12th, July 14th, July 28th, August 3rd, August 10th. Charges ranging from $200 to $300. Jennifer told me those nights she was working late shifts or having girls' nights with her nurse friends. She was at a hotel with Brandon, my wife, my cousin, the baby I'd prayed for every single night for 4 years. It wasn't mine. It was his. And they'd both known. They'd looked me in the eye, accepted my joy, let me start painting a nursery, and said nothing. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. It got dark outside. Jennifer never came home. I called Linda. She answered on the 3rd ring. Michael, hi, sweetie, how are... I couldn't speak. I tried, but the words wouldn't come out. I just made this sound, this broken, choking sound. Michael, what's wrong? Brandon, I finally managed. Jennifer, the baby, it's not mine. It's Brandon's. Silence. Then, what? I told her everything. The blood test, the hotel receipts, the phone records. By the end, we were both crying. "Oh my God," Linda kept saying. "Oh my God, Michael, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Brandon would never, how could he?" "I have to go," I said, and I hung up. I turned off my phone. I sat in the dark living room, in the house I'd bought for the family I thought I was building, and I let myself break completely. I cried until I couldn't breathe. I punched the couch cushions until my knuckles hurt. I went upstairs to that half-painted nursery, and I kicked over the paint cans and watched yellow paint spread across the floor, and I put my fist through the drywall. Then I sat down in the paint and the dust, and I cried some more, because what else was there to do? But somewhere around 3 a.m, sitting there in that destroyed room, something shifted. The crying stopped. The rage burned itself out. And what was left was clarity. Cold, sharp, undeniable clarity. They'd done this to me, Jennifer and Brandon. They'd betrayed me in the worst possible way. They'd taken the thing I wanted most in the world, a family, and they'd turned it into a weapon. They'd planned to let me raise Brandon's child as my own. They'd planned to let me live in that lie forever. And I realized I was done being the victim. I was done being the nice guy, the understanding husband, the generous cousin. They'd played me for a fool. Now it was my turn. I stood up, looked at the ruined nursery, and I started planning. The next morning, I woke up on the couch covered in dried paint. My phone had 17 missed calls: Jennifer, Brandon, Linda, Jennifer's mom. I ignored all of them. Instead, I called my family lawyer, Steve Cohen. He'd handled my parents' estate back when they died. He was the only person I trusted with this. "Steve," I said when he answered, "I need to see you today. It's urgent." We met at his office that afternoon. I walked him through everything: the blood test, the affair, the evidence. Steve listened, took notes, and when I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Michael, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. I want a divorce," I said, "and I want to make sure they can't hurt me any more than they already have." "Oregon is a no-fault divorce state," Steve said. "But infidelity can impact asset division, especially if there's evidence of financial misconduct or deception. The paternity fraud angle is trickier. It's hard to prove intent, and criminal prosecution is rare, but civilly, you have a strong case." "I don't just want a divorce," I said. "I want everyone to know what they did." Steve's expression shifted. "Michael, I understand you're angry, but revenge can backfire. It can make you look—" "I don't care how I look," I said. "They took 4 years of my life. They took $60,000. They took my hope. And they were going to take my future and turn it into a lie. I'm not going to let them walk away from this quietly." Steve studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, let's talk strategy." Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I was meticulous, methodical, cold. I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, but not yet disclosing the affair. I opened a separate bank account and moved half our joint savings into it. I changed every password to every account I had. I got tested for STDs. Thank God, all negative. I started going to therapy with Dr. Sarah Kim, a trauma specialist Linda recommended, and I gathered evidence, so much evidence. Jennifer had kept her old laptop, the one she'd stopped using when she got a new one from the hospital last year. She didn't know I had the admin password. I logged in, recovered her deleted text messages, and there they were. Months of conversations between her and Brandon, starting in June 2023. June 15th, Jennifer to Brandon. "Today was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Brandon to Jennifer, same, but we have to be careful. Michael can't know. July 3rd, Jennifer to Brandon. "I feel so guilty, but when I'm with you, I feel alive again." July 20th, Jennifer to Brandon. "What if he finds out?" Brandon to Jennifer. "He won't. He trusts us too much." August 8th, Jennifer to Brandon. "I'm late." Brandon to Jennifer. "What do you mean late?" Jennifer. "My period. I'm late." Brandon. "Shit, are you serious?" Jennifer. "I'll take a test, but if I'm pregnant, is it yours or his?" Brandon. "When did you last—" Jennifer. "With Michael, like 2 months ago, maybe more. We haven't really been physical. If I'm pregnant, it's probably yours." August 12th, Jennifer to Brandon. "It's positive. I'm pregnant." Brandon. Fuck, what are we going to do? Jennifer: I don't know. The IVF never worked, so if I tell Michael I'm pregnant naturally, he'll believe it. He's wanted this for so long, he'll believe anything. Brandon: Are you sure? Jennifer: He's not going to question it. And if he does, we'll figure it out. Maybe we just don't tell him. I read those messages over and over until they were burned into my brain. The casual cruelty, the calculation, the way they talked about me, like I was a joke, like I was too stupid to see what was right in front of me. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to 3 different drives. Next, I compiled the financial evidence, every hotel receipt, every charge at the Heathman Hotel during those 3 months, always on days Jennifer told me she was working late or out with friends. I cross-referenced with her work schedule. Sure enough, she'd called in sick or swapped shifts on those exact days. 11 hotel meetups in total, over 4 months. Thousands of dollars spent on this affair, charged to our joint credit card. Money I'd earned working overtime to pay off our IVF debt. I found the Venmo payments I'd sent Brandon over the past 2 years. $15,000 total, including the $12,000 he still owed me from the business loan. He'd signed a promissory note. That was legally binding. I got copies of the genetic screening report from Dr. Patel's office. I had an independent lab confirm the blood type analysis. Baby was AB negative, I was O positive, Jennifer was A positive. Genetically impossible. The lab also noted that Brandon Klein's blood type was on file from when he'd donated plasma in college. AB negative. Perfect match. I built my case like I was designing a building. Every piece had to fit. Every detail had to be precise. No room for error. Jennifer kept trying to reach me. She'd text, "Michael, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I love you." She'd call and leave voicemails. "Please don't shut me out. I know you're hurt, but we can work through this. For the baby. For the baby that wasn't mine." I started responding after a week of silence, but I played a role. I was the hurt husband who wanted to try. I suggested couples therapy. Jennifer jumped at it, desperate to keep me from leaving. She thought if she could get me into a room with a therapist, she could spin the story, make me seem like the problem, convince me to stay. She had no idea I'd already briefed my therapist on the entire situation. In our 3rd session, mid-November, the therapist asked Jennifer to talk about why the affair happened. Jennifer, feeling safe, feeling like she was finally getting a chance to explain herself, opened up. "Michael was never there," she said. "He was always working. I felt so alone. The IVF failures made me feel like a failure, and Michael tried to be supportive, but it just felt like pity. Brandon was there. He listened. He made me feel wanted again, not broken." "And when did you realize you were pregnant?" the therapist asked. "August. I took a test, and it was positive. I was terrified at first, because I knew the baby might be Brandon's. But then I thought, Michael's wanted this for so long. He'd be a good father, better than Brandon, honestly. Brandon's not ready for that responsibility. So you considered not telling Michael the truth?" Jennifer hesitated. Then, "Yes, I considered it. Because telling him would destroy everything, and maybe it would be better for everyone if he just didn't know. I was recording the session. Oregon is a one-party consent state. That recording was legal." "And does Brandon know he might be the father?" the therapist asked. "Yes," Jennifer said quietly. "He knows." "What did he say?" "He said he'd support whatever I decided, but he's not ready to be a dad. He has his business to think about, his whole life. And honestly, Michael would be better at it anyway." There it was, on tape. Jennifer admitting she knew the baby might be Brandon's, admitting she planned to deceive me, admitting she and Brandon discussed it and decided to let me believe a lie. I walked out of that session, and I felt nothing. No rage, no pain, just cold certainty. Brandon tried reaching out too, texted, "Man, we need to talk. It's not what you think." Called a few times, left voicemails. "Michael, come on, don't do this. We're family." I ignored him for 3 weeks, let him sweat, let him wonder what I knew, what I was planning. Then I found out through Linda that Brandon was having money problems again. His training business was struggling. He'd lost some clients. He was behind on rent. And he still owed me $12,000. I called a debt collection lawyer, explained the situation. The promissory note Brandon had signed was ironclad. I filed a claim in small claims court for the full amount plus interest, $12,500. Brandon called me the day he was served. Dude, seriously? You're going to sue me? After everything, you're going to sue me? It was the first time I'd spoken to him in almost a month. My voice was calm, flat. After everything? Yeah, Brandon, after everything. Look, he said, Jennifer and I, it just happened. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to. You just accidentally fucked my wife for 3 months. You accidentally got her pregnant. You accidentally planned to let me raise your kid without telling me. Michael, you're going to pay me back every cent, and you're going to see what happens when you fuck with family. You can't do anything to me, he said, and there was anger in his voice now. Jennifer loves me. We're going to be together. You can have your money back, whatever, but you can't touch us. We'll see, I said, and I hung up. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I just had to wait for the right moment. Jennifer was planning a big baby shower. She'd wanted one from the start, and back when I still thought the baby was mine, I'd agreed. She'd sent out invitations in October, 150 people, mostly her family and friends, some coworkers, some neighbors, Brandon's friends. It was supposed to be this huge celebration in early December at the country club where Linda and Rick were members. Linda had even offered to co-host, cover some of the costs. Jennifer had no idea that by mid-November, I'd already shown Linda and Rick everything. The texts, the hotel receipts, the blood type evidence, the therapy recording. Linda cried. Rick got quiet and cold, the way he does when he's furious. They couldn't believe Brandon could do this. Their son. The boy they'd raised. Michael, Linda said, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. I'm so ashamed. You didn't do this, I said. He did. What are you going to do? Rick asked. I told them my plan. Linda went pale. Rick was silent for a long time, then nodded. They humiliated you, he said. They deserve it. Are you okay if I do this at the shower? I asked. It's at your club. It'll make a scene. Linda looked at Rick. Rick looked at me. You're more our son than he is right now, Rick said. Do what you need to do. The baby shower was scheduled for December 10th, 2023, a Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. I spent the first week of December editing a video on my laptop. 20 minutes long, every piece of evidence laid out clearly. The hotel receipts, the text messages, the blood type report, the timeline, the audio from the therapy session, photos of Brandon, everything. I practiced my speech, rewrote it a dozen times, made it tight, made it devastating, made it impossible to deny. December 9th, the night before, I barely slept. I wasn't nervous, I was just ready. I'd spent 2 months planning this, 2 months playing the role of the forgiving husband while I built my case. Tomorrow, it all came out. I woke up on December 10th and felt eerily calm. I put on my best suit, the charcoal gray one I'd worn to my wedding. That felt right. This was an ending after all. I drove to the country club at 1 p.m., 2 hours before the shower started. Linda was already there, setting up decorations with some of Jennifer's friends. Blue and white balloons, banners that said, "Oh baby," tables covered in gifts. It looked beautiful, like a real celebration, like nothing was wrong. Linda saw me and pulled me aside. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure. There's going to be fallout. People are going to talk. This is going to be everywhere. Good, I said. Let them talk. Jennifer arrived at 2:30. She was 7 months pregnant now, glowing in that way pregnant women do. She wore a flowing blue dress, her hair done up, makeup perfect. She saw me across the room and smiled, and for a second I felt a pang of something. Grief, maybe? Grief for the version of this day that should have happened. The one where I was actually going to be a father. She walked over and took my hand. Thank you for being here, she said quietly. I know things have been hard. This means everything to me. I wouldn't miss this for the world, I said. Brandon showed up at 2:45. He looked uncomfortable, avoided eye contact with me. He stayed on the far side of the room, talking to some of his trainer friends, drinking sparkling cider from a plastic champagne flute. At 3 p.m., the shower started. There were games, guess the baby food flavor, measure Jennifer's belly, all the usual stuff. Jennifer was in her element, laughing, opening gifts, posing for photos. Everyone kept telling her how beautiful she looked, how lucky the baby was, how happy they were for us. Like I was part of this. Like this was my child. I stood near the back, watching, waiting. At 4:15, we moved into the gift opening segment. Jennifer sat in a chair at the front of the room, surrounded by wrapped boxes and gift bags. Her mom was next to her, writing down who gave what in a little notebook. People were taking photos, posting on Instagram with hashtags like "Jer baby shower," "Yasasher so blessed family time." I waited until Jennifer had opened about half the gifts. Then I stood up and walked to the front of the room. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough to cut through the chatter. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The room quieted. Jennifer looked at me, confused but smiling. "Michael, what?" "Before we continue," I said, "I have a surprise for Jennifer. I made a video, a tribute to the journey we've been on, to everything that's led us to this moment." Jennifer's smile faltered for just a second. "Michael, you didn't have to—" "I wanted to," I said. "Everyone, if we could dim the lights and turn on the projector. Linda?" Linda, already positioned by the light switches, nodded. The lights went down. A projector screen lowered from the ceiling. Rick had helped me set that up earlier. I pulled a USB drive from my pocket, plugged it into the laptop, connected to the projector, and hit play. The screen lit up with the title slide, "A Journey of Love, Trust, and Truth." The first 2 minutes of the video were sweet. Wedding photos of me and Jennifer, smiling, happy, young. Pictures from our honeymoon in Hawaii. Pictures of us painting the house, hosting dinners, living our life. The soundtrack was soft, a gentle piano piece. My voiceover began, "8 years ago, I married my best friend. We built a life together. We dreamed of starting a family." People in the audience were making soft sounds. Aw, some dabbing at their eyes. The video continued. Photos from the fertility clinic, copies of IVF bills, appointment reminders, calendar entries marking each failed cycle. "We struggled," my voiceover continued. "We spent $60,000. We cried together. We failed together. But I never gave up on us. I believed we'd have our miracle." Jennifer was watching the screen now, her smile gone, her face pale. The music changed from soft and sweet to something darker, more ominous. The screen went black for a beat. Then text appeared. "June 2023, something changed." Photos of Brandon filled the screen. Brandon at our house, Brandon with Jennifer at the gym. Timestamps from social media posts, cross-referenced with our calendar. The audience started shifting uncomfortably. Murmurs rippled through the room. "Jennifer," someone said. "What is this?" Jennifer stood up. "Michael, turn it off. Turn it off right now." I didn't move. I just watched the screen. Hotel receipts appeared. The Heathman Hotel, downtown Portland. July 12th, $287. July 14th, $312. July 28th, $265. August 3rd, $294. August 10th, $281. Text overlays appeared next to each receipt. July 12th, 2023. Jennifer told me she was working a late shift. July 28th, 2023. Jennifer told me she had girls' night. August 3rd, 2023. Jennifer told me she was at a work training. She was at the Heathman Hotel with someone else. The room exploded into gasps and whispers. Jennifer was shaking. "Stop it! Michael, stop this right now!" Uncle Rick moved to stand near the door. Linda stood near another exit. No one was leaving until this was over. The video continued. Screenshots of text messages filled the screen. Jennifer and Brandon's numbers at the top, their faces blurred out, but their names clearly visible. Jennifer to Brandon. "Today was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." Brandon to Jennifer. "We have to be careful. Michael can't know." Jennifer to Brandon. "I'm late. What if I'm pregnant?" Brandon to Jennifer. "Is it mine or his?" Jennifer. "If I'm pregnant, it's probably yours." People were shouting now. Jennifer's friends, her mom, her sister. "What the fuck?" Jennifer, "What is this?" "Oh my God." Brandon tried to move toward the door. Rick blocked him. "Sit down," Rick said, his voice cold and hard. The video moved to the genetic screening report. A simple animation explained blood type inheritance. O positive plus A. Positive cannot produce AB negative. It's genetically impossible. Then a photo of me with my blood type, O positive. A photo of Jennifer with her blood type, a positive. And finally, A photo of Brandon with his blood type, AB negative. Text appeared on screen. Brandon Klein is the biological father of Jennifer's baby. The final segment was audio from the therapy session, Jennifer's voice crackling through the speakers. I knew the baby might be Brandon's. I didn't want Michael to know because he'd leave, and I can't afford this on my own. Brandon's not ready to be a dad. Michael would be better at it anyway. The video ended, the screen went black, the lights came up. For a moment, there was complete silence. 150 people staring at the screen, at Jennifer, at Brandon, at me, then chaos. Jennifer collapsed into her chair, sobbing. "You bastard!" she screamed at me. "You had no right! You had no right!" I picked up the microphone that had been set up for speeches. My voice was calm, steady. I had every right. This is my truth. This is what you did to me. Brandon tried to slip out a side door. Uncle Rick grabbed him by the arm, yanked him back. "You're not going anywhere. It's not, we didn't mean, it just happened," Brandon stammered. I turned to look at him. "You lived in my house. I paid for your certification. I lent you $15,000. I treated you like a brother. And you repaid me by getting my wife pregnant and planning to let me raise your kid without ever knowing the truth. Michael, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Nothing just happens, Brandon. You made choices. Every time you met her at that hotel. Every time you deleted a text. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied. Those were choices. Now you get to live with them." Jennifer's mother was shouting at her. "How could you do this to him? After everything he did for you? After all the IVF? After all the money?" Jennifer's sister was crying. "I knew something was off. I knew there was something wrong with you two." Brandon's friends were leaving, shaking their heads, disgusted. Jennifer turned on me, vicious now. "You humiliated me, in front of everyone. You're cruel. You're a monster." I stepped closer to her. "I'm cruel? You were going to let me raise another man's child. You were going to lie to me for 18 years, maybe more. You planned this, Jennifer. You and Brandon sat down and decided I was too stupid to figure it out, too desperate for a family to question anything. You weaponized my grief. Fuck you, Michael." "I'm done," I said. "Divorce papers are being filed tomorrow morning. Brandon, you'll be served for the $12,000 you owe me. Jennifer, good luck being a single mom. I hope it was worth it." I walked toward the exit. Some people started clapping. Not everyone, but some. Enough. Linda was crying. Rick squeezed my shoulder as I passed. Behind me, I could hear Jennifer still crying, still shouting. I could hear her mom yelling at her. I could hear Brandon trying to defend himself, failing. I walked out into the cold December air, got into my car, and drove home. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes, engine off, just breathing, and I felt lighter than I had in months. The weight was gone. The secret was out. Everyone knew what they'd done to me, and there was no taking it back, no spinning it, no hiding it. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The next 3 days were a blur. My phone didn't stop. Messages from friends, from coworkers, from people I barely knew. Some were supportive. "Dude, I had no idea. That took guts. I'm so sorry." Some were angry. "You're a monster for humiliating a pregnant woman." Some were just curious, wanting details, wanting gossip. Someone at the shower had recorded the video on their phone. By Monday morning, it was all over local social media. Portland baby shower revenge was trending in local Facebook groups, on Reddit, on neighborhood forums. The video wasn't uploaded in full, thank God, but screenshots were everywhere. People were debating it. Was I justified? Did I go too far? Was public humiliation ever okay? I didn't engage. I stayed off social media. I let my lawyer handle everything. Jennifer stayed at her mother's house. She tried to have her lawyer threaten me with a defamation suit, but her lawyer told her she didn't have a case. Truth is an absolute defense. Everything I showed in that video was factual, documented, provable. Brandon disappeared, stopped answering calls, shut down his social media accounts. Linda told me he was having panic attacks, that he'd checked himself into an ER one night because he thought he was having a heart attack. It was anxiety, they said. They gave him Xanax and sent him home. A small part of me felt bad, but mostly I didn't. They'd made their choices. They'd known the risks. They'd just never thought they'd get caught. The fallout spread fast. Jennifer's family turned on her. Her mother, who'd initially tried to defend her, saw the full evidence and stopped speaking to her. Her sister posted on Facebook about how betrayal runs deep, and some people don't deserve forgiveness. Extended family members took sides, mostly mine, the ones who'd known me since I was 22, who'd watched me put myself through school after my parents died, who'd seen me work so hard to build a life. They were on my side. Brandon's family was wrecked. Aunt Linda called me crying 3 times in the first week. "I don't understand," she kept saying. "How could he do this to you? You're like a son to us. You're more our family than he is right now." Uncle Rick barely spoke to Brandon. When Brandon tried to come home for dinner that first week, Rick told him to leave. "I don't want to see your face," he said. Brandon's siblings sided with me. His younger sister posted a long Instagram story about how family means loyalty, and how some people don't deserve the family they were born into. She didn't name Brandon, but everyone knew. Jennifer's work life imploded too. The hospital where she worked started hearing about it. Someone from the baby shower knew someone who worked there. Gossip spread. Patients started requesting different nurses. Jennifer's coworkers treated her differently. She was called into HR 2 weeks after the shower. They'd found discrepancies in her time sheets. All those days she'd claimed to be working late or coming in early. Cross-referenced with gym check-in records and hotel timestamps, it turned out she'd been lying. She'd been clocking hours she wasn't actually working, meeting Brandon instead. It wasn't me who reported it. It was a coworker who hated her, who'd always thought Jennifer was entitled and lazy, who saw an opportunity to take her down. Jennifer got a written warning and was put on probation. She had to complete mandatory ethics training. Her reputation at work was destroyed. She talked about quitting, but she couldn't afford to. She was about to be a single mom. Someone also filed a formal complaint with the Oregon State Board of Nursing. Not me, I swear it wasn't me, but someone. The complaint alleged that Jennifer had engaged in conduct unbecoming of a nurse, that she'd violated professional ethics. The board launched an investigation. Jennifer hired a lawyer to fight it. The case was still pending months later. Brandon's business collapsed. His training studio had been struggling already, but after the shower, it was over. Clients canceled. His Yelp and Google reviews got bombed with 1 stars. People from the baby shower, people from social media who'd heard the story. They called him unprofessional, a liar, a homewrecker. He tried to salvage it, posted apologies on his business page, but it was too late. By early January, he filed for bankruptcy and closed the studio. The small claims court judgment came through in mid-December. I won the full amount, $12,500. Brandon's wages were garnished. He had to get a job as a regular employee at a 24-hour fitness just to make ends meet. It was a massive step down from being his own boss. He was making $400 payments to me every month. It felt like blood money, but I didn't care. He owed me, and he was going to pay. Financially, they were both ruined. Jennifer had prenatal care costs, preparing for a baby alone, trying to figure out how she'd afford daycare when she went back to work. Brandon had bankruptcy, debt, no business, and child support payments looming. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd destroyed my dream of having a family. Now they were both trapped in the nightmare version of it, a child neither of them was ready for, born out of betrayal, with no love left between them. Because by late December, Jennifer and Brandon's relationship was falling apart too. Jennifer blamed Brandon for not stepping up, for not being ready to be a father, for ruining her life. Brandon blamed Jennifer for seducing him, for getting pregnant in the first place, for dragging him into this mess. They fought constantly. Linda told me she'd overheard one of their arguments on the phone, Jennifer screaming that Brandon was useless, Brandon shouting that he never wanted this. They tried to make it work for a few weeks, for the baby's sake. But by New Year's, they were done. Brandon moved back in with his parents in total humiliation. Jennifer stayed with her mom. They were co-parenting before the baby was even born, and it was ugly. But the worst fallout, the hardest part, was emotional. Jennifer lost her support system. Her friends, her family, her reputation, gone. She was pregnant, alone, terrified, and everyone knew what she'd done. She tried reaching out to me in mid-December. "Michael, please, I'm sorry. I know you hate me. But this baby is coming, and I'm scared. I can't do this alone. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. She tried again. "I made a mistake, a huge, terrible mistake. But I'm going to be a mother. Please don't punish the baby. The baby that wasn't mine. The baby that was never going to be mine. I told my therapist about the messages. She's asking me to help raise Brandon's child. After everything, she wants me to step up and be the hero. And how does that make you feel? Dr. Kim asked. Like she thinks I'm an idiot. Like she still thinks I'll save her. Do you feel any responsibility toward the baby? I thought about it for a long time. No, I said finally. That baby isn't my problem. And saying that out loud makes me feel like a monster. But it's the truth. You're not a monster, Michael. You're someone who's been deeply hurt, and you're protecting yourself. That's not cruelty. That's survival. Brandon was falling apart too. Aunt Linda told me he was barely functioning. He'd lost his business, his income, his identity. He was depressed, isolated. He'd had 2 more panic attacks in December. His relationship with his parents was destroyed. His friends had distanced themselves. In early January, Aunt Linda called me. She was crying. Michael, I know what Brandon did is unforgivable. I know he hurt you in the worst way possible. But he's my son, and he's falling apart. I'm watching him spiral, and I don't know how to help him. What do you want me to do? I asked. I don't know. I'm asking you to think about whether this is enough, whether the revenge has run its course. People are still harassing him online. He's getting threats. His mental health is, Michael, I'm scared for him. I sat with that for a long time after we hung up. Did I go too far? I'd wanted them to face consequences, and they had. In every possible way, socially, financially, emotionally, they'd been destroyed. Jennifer was about to be a single mom with no support system. Brandon was bankrupt and broken. I'd won. I'd exposed them. I'd taken back my power. But sitting in my house alone that night, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. I went to therapy the next day. Linda asked me to back off, I told Dr. Kim. She said Brandon's having a breakdown. She said the public shaming has gone too far. What do you think? I think I set the truth free, and people reacted how they reacted. I didn't force anyone to hate them. I just showed everyone who they really were. That's true, Dr. Kim said, but I'll ask you something hard. When you made that video, when you planned that exposure, did you know it would ruin their lives? Yes. And did you want it to ruin their lives? I looked at her. Yes, I did. How do you feel about that now? I didn't answer right away. I thought about Jennifer sobbing in that country club. I thought about Brandon's panic attacks. I thought about the messages calling me a hero and the messages calling me a monster. I don't regret it, I said finally. They deserve to face consequences. They deserve to have everyone see what they did. But I also think I became someone I don't recognize, someone who could orchestrate that level of pain and feel nothing. You're not a villain, Michael, Dr. Kim said. You're someone who was hurt and you fought back. The question now is, what comes next? Do you stay in this anger or do you start healing? I don't know how to heal from this. That's why you're here, and that's the work we're going to do. The divorce was finalized in January 2024. It was fast. Jennifer didn't fight it. She couldn't afford to. My lawyer was better than hers, and the evidence was overwhelming. I got the house, the car, my retirement accounts. No alimony, no child support, because paternity was proven not mine. Jennifer got nothing except her personal belongings and her car. She gave birth in February, a girl, Sophia Marie, 7 pounds, 4 ounces, healthy. Brandon's name was on the birth certificate. I saw the announcement on Facebook through a mutual friend. I looked at the photo, Jennifer holding a tiny baby in a hospital gown, exhausted, alone. And I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not even pity. Just a distant memory of a life I used to want. A ghost of a dream that was never real to begin with. I closed Facebook. I didn't need to see anymore. The weeks after the divorce were strange. I'd won everything I'd fought for. Legal victory, social vindication, financial security. But I was alone in a house that was too big, in a life that felt too empty. I threw myself into therapy. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times. Dr. Kim and I worked through the betrayal trauma, the trust issues, the anger. We talked about identity. You tied your self-worth to being a husband and a father, she said. When Jennifer took that from you, you felt like you lost yourself. I did lose myself, I said. I don't know who I am anymore. You're still Michael. You're still the architect who builds beautiful things. You're still the man who puts in the work, who shows up, who values loyalty and honesty. Those things didn't disappear. You just forgot them for a while. I started journaling. I joined an online support group for people who'd been through infidelity and betrayal. Reading other people's stories helped. I wasn't alone. This happened to people every day. They survived, some thrived. I could too. I started running. I'd never been a runner before, always hated cardio, but in February I laced up some old sneakers and started jogging around the neighborhood. The first week, I could barely make it a mile, but I kept going. Every morning, before work, I ran, and every mile, I felt a little lighter, like I was leaving pieces of the old me behind with every step. The me who was too scared to stand up for himself, too desperate to be loved to demand respect. By March, I was running 3 miles. By April, 5. I signed up for a half marathon in October. It gave me something to work toward, something that had nothing to do with Jennifer or Brandon or babies or betrayal. My career became my focus too. I'd always loved architecture, but during the marriage I'd treated it like just a job, something to pay the bills, to fund the IVF, to keep us afloat. Now I remembered why I'd chosen this field in the first place. I loved designing spaces that brought people together, that served communities, that mattered. I took on a pro bono project, designing a community center for an underserved neighborhood in North Portland. It was challenging, meaningful work. I met with neighborhood leaders, with kids who'd used the space, with families who needed it, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was building something good, something real, something that wasn't tainted by lies. The project took 6 months. In August, we broke ground. In September, the city gave me an award for community-focused design. Standing on that stage, accepting that recognition, I felt pride for the first time in so long. Not pride in what I had done to Jennifer and Brandon. That was just survival. But pride in what I was creating now, in who I was becoming. I reconnected with old friends too, college buddies I'd lost touch with during the marriage. We started doing weekend trips, hiking in the gorge, visiting breweries, just living normal life. One of my friends, Dave, said it best one night over beers. "It's good to see you laugh again, man. Really laugh, not just going through the motions. It's good to feel like me again," I said. I kept my relationship with Linda and Rick. They apologized constantly for Brandon, but I told them the same thing every time. "You didn't do this. He did. I don't blame you." We started having Sunday dinners again in the spring. New tradition, new memories. It was healing for all of us. We didn't talk about Brandon unless Linda brought him up, which was rare. Mostly we just ate good food, shared stories about work and life, and rebuilt the family bonds that had been fractured. Linda told me Brandon had moved to Seattle in April. He was trying to start over, find new clients, rebuild his life away from Portland, where everyone knew what he'd done. He was seeing Sophia once a month, paying child support. But his relationship with Jennifer was cold and transactional. They only spoke about logistics, drop-offs, money, medical stuff. I didn't ask for updates. I didn't care. That chapter was closed. In September, everything shifted again. I was at a design conference in Seattle, presenting on sustainable community architecture. After my panel, I was standing by the coffee station, checking my phone, when someone tapped me on the shoulder. That was a really great talk. The section about biophilic design, brilliant. I turned around. She was about my age, maybe a year or two younger, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and paint-stained jeans. She had this warm, easy smile. "Thanks," I said. "I'm glad someone stayed awake through it." She laughed. "I'm Emily, landscape architect. I'm always looking for people who get that buildings and nature should work together, not against each other." "Michael," I said, shaking her hand. "And yeah, that's kind of my whole philosophy." We talked for 20 minutes by the coffee station, then an hour over lunch, then 3 more hours at the hotel bar that night. Emily was smart, funny, passionate about her work. She lived in Seattle, worked for a firm that specialized in urban green spaces. She was recently divorced, 2 years ago, amicable split, no kids. "What about you?" she asked. "Married?" "Divorced," I said. "Recently. It was, complicated." "It always is," she said, and she didn't push for details. We exchanged numbers before I left Seattle. She texted me a few days later. "Coffee sometime? I'll be in Portland next month for a project." I said yes. Our first real date was in October, at a cafe in Southeast Portland. I was nervous. I hadn't dated in 10 years, hadn't even thought about it. I didn't know if I was ready, but Emily made it easy. We talked about design, about cities we wanted to visit, about our favorite hiking trails. She told me about her divorce, how she and her ex had just grown apart, how they were still friends, how she'd learned that sometimes love isn't enough if you're not growing in the same direction. I told her about Jennifer, not everything, not the baby shower, not the revenge, but the basics, the affair, the betrayal, the IVF struggles, how I'd trusted someone completely and been destroyed for it. That's awful, Emily said. I'm so sorry. It was a year ago. I'm past it. Are you? I looked at her. Most days. She smiled. That's honest. I appreciate that. We went on more dates, dinners, hikes, weekend trips to the coast. Emily had her own life, her own friends, her own goals. She wasn't looking for someone to complete her. She was looking for a partner, an equal. It was different from Jennifer. With Jennifer, I'd always felt like I had to fix things, save things, be the strong one. With Emily, we were just us. Two people figuring it out together. By November, we were dating seriously. I introduced her to Linda and Rick. They loved her. She's good for you, Linda said after Emily left. She's solid, grounded, and Michael, she looks at you like you matter, not like you're a means to an end. Emily met my friends. She fit right in. Dave pulled me aside one night. Dude, don't screw this up. She's great. I know, I said. We took it slow. Emily knew I had trust issues, and she didn't push. She earned my trust day by showing up, by being consistent, by being honest even when it was hard. In December, we were at her apartment in Seattle, making dinner, and she asked, "What are you thinking about? You've been quiet." "It's been a year," I said, "since the baby shower, since everything imploded." "How do you feel?" "I don't think about it much anymore. Sometimes days go by and I forget it even happened." "That's healing, right?" She kissed my forehead. "That's healing." I checked Facebook one last time in December. Curiosity mostly. Jennifer's profile was sparse now. Just a few photos of Sophia, no Brandon tagged. Friends had told me Jennifer and Brandon had broken up for good in March. They were co-parenting barely. Brandon saw Sophia once a month, paid child support. But there was no love left between them, just resentment and obligation. Brandon was still in Seattle, still working at the 24-hour fitness, still trying to rebuild. He'd started posting on Instagram again, motivational quotes, workout videos, acting like the past year hadn't happened, but his follower count was a fraction of what it used to be. The comments were sparse. He was a ghost of who he'd been. Jennifer was surviving, still a nurse, still on probation at work, still struggling financially. She'd posted a photo on Sophia's first birthday, just the two of them, no family in the background. The caption was something about strength and resilience. I didn't read the whole thing. I closed Facebook, blocked Jennifer's profile, blocked Brandon's, removed myself from any groups where their names might come up. I didn't need to know anymore. Their story wasn't mine. It never had been. I was building something new now, something real, and I didn't want to carry them with me anymore. By the end of 2024, I was a different person. Not the guy who ignored red flags, not the guy who sacrificed himself for people who didn't respect him. I was Michael, flawed, healing, but finally whole. I ran that half marathon in October, finished in under 2 hours. Emily was at the finish line with a stupid handmade sign that said, "You're slower than I expected, but I still love you." I laughed so hard I almost couldn't breathe. My therapy sessions tapered off. Once a month now, just maintenance. Dr. Kim told me I'd done the work. You faced what happened. You grieved what you lost. You fought back when you needed to. And now you're letting yourself move forward. That's the full cycle. "Do you think I went too far?" I asked her. "With the baby shower, with everything. I think you did what you needed to do to reclaim your story. Were there consequences? Yes. Were they severe? Yes. But you didn't lie. You just told the truth in the loudest way possible. Whether that was right or wrong, that's between you and your conscience." "I don't regret it," I said. "I know." Emily and I moved in together in early 2025. A new place, neutral territory. Not the house I'd shared with Jennifer. We picked out furniture together, painted walls together, built a life together. In the spring, we took a trip to Japan, something I'd always wanted to do. We visited temples and gardens, ate amazing food, got lost in Tokyo's side streets. One night, sitting in a tiny ramen shop in Kyoto, Emily said, "I'm happy, like genuinely happy. Are you?" "Yeah," I said. "I really am." It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the family I dreamed of when I was 28 and optimistic and believed love was enough. But it was mine, and it was real. I still think about it sometimes. Late at night, when I can't sleep, I wonder what would have happened if I'd never found out. If Dr. Patel hadn't mentioned the blood type, if I'd raised Sophia as my own, never knowing she wasn't mine, would I have been happy? Would it have been enough? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I would have spent years living a lie, and the truth would have come out eventually, and it would have been even worse. All I know is this: I thought we were building a family. Turns out I was the only one who believed that. Jennifer and Brandon weren't building anything. They were just taking my money, my trust, my hope, and they would have kept taking if I'd let them, but I didn't let them. People ask me if I regret how I handled it. The baby shower, the exposure, all of it. Honestly, no. They made choices. I made mine. I chose honesty over silence. I chose myself over being nice. I chose to fight back instead of fading away quietly. Do I wish it had never happened every single day? But it did. And I'm still here, stronger, wiser, maybe a little colder, but alive, and building something that's actually mine this time. A year ago, I stood in front of 150 people and detonated my entire life. Today, I'm standing in my kitchen with a woman I love, in a home we built together, planning a future I actually believe in. The baby that was supposed to complete my life destroyed it instead. But in the wreckage, I found something better. I found myself.